Namaskar from India and Assalamu Alaikum from Dubai. I'll be spending the first 5 to 6 minutes introducing eVidyaloka and our volunteering model. eVidyaloka was founded in 2011 by two enthusiastic volunteers, Venkat and Satish, both Microsoft India alumni, with the objective of enabling quality education for the most deserving children of rural India. How does our model work? We provide the digital platform to connect passionate volunteers from various cities and towns within and outside India to schools in Indian villages. The program primarily caters to the students in standards 5th to standard 8th. Our model has contributed to reducing the school dropout rates. The key offering is what we call the digital classroom program, connecting the volunteers with the schools. We select the schools based on primarily 3 criteria. It has to be run by the local government. It should be teaching in vernacular medium, and the schools located in rural India. Live and interactive sessions are delivered in Hindi and 6 other regional languages: Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Bengali, Marathi, and Oriya, across 600 plus schools, benefiting around 123,000 students in academic year 22-23. We have an active volunteer base of around 5,500. The group is very diverse and has been a pillar of strength for the model. Subha, Kannan, my colleague and one of the panel speakers, will be elaborating on the robustness of this model later in the discussion. It's been a learning experience for us over the last decade. We tied up with local NGOs to provide us the basic digital infrastructure, which is the laptop, the internet connectivity, and a television. The local NGO also provided us with a field coordinator whose job is to make sure the digital infrastructure is up and running 24/7. Then there is another challenge to be overcome. The eyes and ears of the volunteer teachers are in the digital classroom, but their arms and legs are to be replaced by what we call the class assistants. The class assistant, who is physically present in the digital classroom, basically does 3 jobs: assemble the classroom on time, collect the homework assignments and electronically transmit to the virtual volunteer, and also make sure the tools and the props required for any activity-based learning is provided for the classroom. So we do have a second offering called the Teach Through Television program. In order to cater to students who do not have access to the digital classroom, we curate video lessons and broadcast them in regional languages via cable television channels. This had actually become hugely popular during the COVID times. During assessment year 22-23, upwards of 24 million Teach Through Television views were accomplished. Besides these 2 key offerings, that is the digital classroom and the Teach Through Television program, we have 4 other national level programs providing mentorship to the rural students in the middle schools. They are Leadership Curriculum Program, which imparts the leadership skills through a competition to the middle school students. 2, National Student Innovation Challenge, NSIC, to engage the young minds on the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Swapna, my colleague and one of the panel speakers today, will be elaborating on NSIC later during the conversation. Thirdly, to train students to take up the examination NMS, which is National Merit and Means Scholarship, conducted by the Government of India. And fourthly, to coach students to take up examination called JEE and NEET. These are essentially the coaching classes to take up admission into engineering and medical colleges in India. We did this for about 185 schools in Andhra Pradesh last year. Briefly on my own moment of truth experience on volunteering. I found my calling in eVidyaloka in 2019, just before COVID, when I started volunteering for a school in Tamil Nadu. My association with them continued for 4 years in various forms through their national level mentorship programs like Leadership Curriculum and NSIC. For any weather related or festival related reasons, if the online classes get cancelled, which happens, the overwhelming feeling was never frustration, but more the disappointment to have missed out on the chance to have connected with your wards. We have today 3 passionate volunteers from different walks of life joining the conversation as fellow speakers in the panel to share their own volunteering experiences. So I end the introduction. I've set the context now. We'll move on to the first panelist, Subha Kannan. Subha has been with eVidyaloka for the last 4 years in various capacities. She was heading the donor relationship, and now she has moved on to head the project management office. Subha, I see the eVidyaloka virtual volunteering started way back in 2011. 6 to 8 years ahead of the online education revolution. If you can take us through this journey as to how the virtual volunteering model was built, how diverse the volunteer group is, and what challenges you faced during this pioneering journey of building this beautiful volunteering model.
Sure. A very good evening and good morning to one and all present here. Way back in 2010, when Venkat and Satish piloted the first digital classroom program in a school in Tamil Nadu, Trichy district, Tennur Government Upper Primary School, they started with about 5 volunteer teachers. And right now, in last academic year, if we see, we had around 5,500 plus volunteer teachers with us, having online volunteering sessions across 600 about schools in 12 to 14 states. The journey has been roller coaster, a lot of sweet moments. In last 10 years, we have a total of around 55,000 individuals who are passionate in giving back to the society, who are associated with eVidyaloka in various capacities like teaching, for content creation, be it for mentoring, like you just mentioned, for events and competitions, and giving, whenever they find time, they come with us and they give guest sessions for the students on health and wellness and, some common agenda that the students can understand at this age. Now, the journey started with just a word of mouth, telling, friends and relatives, families, could you come and volunteer with us? From there, we went on to discussing about this model with the like-minded NGOs like iVolunteers and Bhumi, who could help us with this volunteering model, bring in a lot of passionate volunteers in the journey of eVidyaloka. And now we have evolved to a level of having Google ad campaigns and having corporate partnerships with various multinational companies and corporates who could give us that newer set of vibes. Teaching is common. We have all been through, we have all sat down in the benches and we have been here. We know how can this journey be molded better. So giving back all those experience now at this era of digital through technology and volunteering with the comfort of joining right where you are is something that eVidyaloka has seen even before the pandemic has hit, because we are all used to saying this, sorry, some network connection, maybe I'll rejoin again. But even before all this came, work from home and all, eVidyaloka has been doing this model with technology and volunteers as the pillars in rural and remote regions where you don't actually have a proper transportation facility. And with all this said, the contrary to it is the volunteers. Who are they? Where are they from, right? Anybody who is minimum of 18 years old, be it a student, be it a working professional, be it homemakers, retired professionals, um, age group diverse, professional background diverse. If you see this panel today, we have Padma ma'am who's representing NASA. We have Meenal ma'am who's kind of experiment to educate ways of making science fun and learning. Amit, who is a tech expert, and Kumar himself has been through multiple journeys in volunteering as a mentor, as a teacher, and now sitting with us as a consultant to help remold the model itself. Throughout the journey, we all grow up along with the student. We have interesting set of volunteers, who always said that we learn for the students, also from the students. We have to prepare for the class every day. And the same time, when you go, there are kids who are waiting to surprise you with a lot of questions that you won't even think that this might come from this kind of grade 5 to grade 8 students, right? Interestingly, we had a 70-year-old volunteer teacher, if I remember right. Her name was Lakshmi. And when we interacted with her, she was very happy because for the first time she learned Google Meet, she learned Skype, just because she wanted to teach these children. And she wanted to have that connect, that she didn't want to miss this opportunity to see the children every day. So she started doing all of that. So when they give their extra mile, we also try to encourage and appreciate their journey, acknowledge their efforts, take in their feedback to how we can do it better. This journey should be a very cakewalk for both volunteers as well as students, despite all the extra nominal impact that gets in. Somewhere between using a blackboard to whiteboard software today, we have all evolved from the physical model of teaching to the virtual model of teaching. As you asked about challenges, there are two ways of challenges that I see. Firstly, to bring in passionate volunteers, we will have to talk to 10 people to get one volunteer. Because as you said, the criteria, the regional language proficiency to read, write, speak in the regional languages like Tamil, Kannada, Hindi, Telugu, multilingual India, and time slots whenever they are available despite their day work, and that time slot should be matching with the school's availability. Then we need a proper laptop with webcams. So all this criteria given, and volunteers also face challenges when they start the journey, right? Because the schools are all in remote places, and for various reasons the volunteers couldn't continue their teaching. Despite all of this, we were able to source volunteers for across all the 600 schools as we speak, with a robust volunteer management team in place at eVidyaloka. Big kudos for them to putting this journey together for both the volunteer as well as the student, to give them a wonderful journey in learning through online live medium. And there are challenges when, like I said, when the volunteers drop suddenly. How will it be, when they couldn't continue for some reason? While it is possible for us to have a backup pool of volunteers ready, at that time to handle such situations, from the student perspective, it takes a lot of effort for them to align to the new pedagogy of teaching of the new teacher, whereas they were following the earlier one. To mitigate this, we actually have brought in, with the help of our content management team, we have a lot of standardized lesson plans and content modules that they can use. Whoever comes in, the process will be similar. So the children are now used to it. Hence, it becomes easier. Like you don't need much time to settle down. Directly build the rapport, enjoy the classes, start teaching, learning both ways. So I think that's where we have been evolving, improvising every day as we speak.
Thank you, Subha. So I can see that to get every 100 active teachers, volunteer teachers, you need to process 1,000. Yeah, that's a challenge in itself. But at the same time, it's equally exciting to deal with such a diverse group of volunteers and bring quality education to rural India. My next panelist is Padma Varanasi, a devoted and passionate volunteer. She is a space engineer working at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory over the last 30 years. Padma, having spent over 30 years in NASA, a dream workplace for so many of us, you would be getting speaking assignments with many reputed institutions within and outside India, and also an opportunity to have intellectually stimulating conversations. What motivates you to spare your time to teach the 6th and 7th standard students in rural India? And just if I may add one more point to it, given your personality, how much influence do you think you have on the students' mind, especially the girl children? Padma.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. I don't know where everybody is in the world. Subha had a great introduction. It's a give and take. It's a challenging, no dull moments, up and down, just a joyful experience that makes me want to wake up, which is very similar to my lifelong journey at NASA. It's not easy. There have been times it's been difficult. And for me, it's hours too, because I'm in Washington, D.C. So, and I myself actually went to a government school. I went to eVidyaloka and IIT. So I kind of believe, for me, it's a full circle coming back to rural India. And I know there are government schools and government schools, but it is a government school. So the government school that took me on this lifelong NASA journey, I feel like, okay, I'm giving something back. And I spend 2 hours a week, maybe, sometimes a little more, because I want to, and if I'm behind. But I get so much more back in return, And then we've developed this, and then I have a fascination and they're fascinated. So we have a mutual admiration and fascination, because I'm learning too, I'm learning actually a lot, more than probably what they're learning from me. They're learning the academics. I try to teach them about the religions of the world, the holidays we have in the world, not just about India necessarily. But what I'm being exposed to is places I would have never traveled, or even NSIC, Swapna would go into it, getting in touch with the farmers, working with the farmers. I mean, who knew? It's just an amazing, rewarding experience. It's by God's grace, I just stumbled on this eVidyaloka, and I'm very thankful. And now, have I inspired? I hope so. I don't really, it's hard to know, but that's my goal, right? I mean, it just especially the schools I have been teaching have been, because of the time difference, residential schools. So it's mostly girls' schools. And I've been in the co-ed schools, but for me, girl empowerment. The girls tend to be shy. In the world, men make it, somehow they manage, but it's for the girls to teach them the value of education and the freedom it gives you, and economic independence it gives you, and that kind of stuff, So I hope I have inspired. If I can see any of us shoot for the moon, you may end up, if you shoot for the stars, actually. And if you miss the stars, you end up at the moon. That's my goal. If any of those kids can graduate, go to college, anyone, just one out of all of these kids I've taught, I feel like, yes, I've been successful. So again, coming back to my roots, going back to a village, that I was born in a village. So it's all a full circle. So, which is very, very gratifying. I mean, I can't even express in words. There are no words. I think I learn more from them. And I go visit the schools sometime if I can, every year, whichever school I am. And some of the visits grounds me, because we are not in touch with reality. We live in such segregated neighborhoods in our little areas, to see, it's real, it's real. And what you learn mostly is there are many ways to live. I've learned tolerance, being creative, patience, and these are all good things, so it's worth it. A couple of hours a week, I wake up in the morning. I'm not gonna lose sleep. Yes, I do lose a little sleep, but it's not a big deal. So it's the joy. It's the joy, and receiving what I'm getting is amazing. It's really an amazing experience. Thank you.
Padma, thank you so much. You brought in a very beautiful message. Volunteering is not only about giving, it's also about taking. Nobody else could have summarized it so beautifully in that, emotional way you put it across. It was so impressive. Thank you for that, Padma. My next panelist is Swapna Ramkumar. I have only one line of introduction for her. There is a reason behind it. I'm going to tell you that. Swapna has been with eVidyaloka for the last 10 years. And out of that, last 7 years, she has been running this NSIC project, National Student Innovation Challenge project. So why did I stop at that without going too much into her background? Because when I asked her, how do I introduce you? Her only passion is NSIC, right? How to get children out of the NSIC project successfully. So all she said was, Kumar, introduce NSIC. No need to introduce me. That's the passion she has for that. So let me do what she asked me to do. NSIC involves the volunteers acting as mentors for rural children to work on real world issues, focusing on sustainable development goals of the UN. So she picks 5 or 6 SDGs, and on those SDGs, rural students pick some projects. When she started the NSIC project in 2016, there were only 20 teams participating across India in the competition. Last academic year, we had more than 400 teams, which means we are talking about 800 plus students participating and 400 plus mentors mentoring those children. Roughly 50% of them are rural children, 50% of them are urban children. eVidyaloka's role is to mentor those rural children to compete with the urban children. So that is her primary responsibility. So Swapna, could you please take us through this 20 teams to 400 plus teams journey and how the rural students have become advocates of the sustainable development goals? Over to you.
Thank you, Kumar. Greetings to all my co-panelists and the audience. Kumar, when we are talking about the young generation children, we also need to keep in mind, especially the rural segment, these children from 11, 12, 13 years old, they are the first generation learners of their community. So besides having to do or participate in any contest or competition, they have this fire in their belly syndrome to achieve something. It is an intrinsic nature for them, right? So when we go and announce the NSIC competition, they also want to win the award, but also want to accomplish something for their society. So how do they go about doing this? So they pick an SDG of their choice, which is very relevant to them. And they work on that SDG for a period of 3 to 4 months along with a volunteer mentor who helps them in this entire process. So I would like to cite an example of one of the set of team who worked with us last year. So this team is from one of the villages in Jharkhand in the Ranchi state. And this team had selected their SDG as clean water and sanitation. Why did they select clean water and sanitation? Is because they wanted to eradicate a problem that was existent in their village, namely waterborne diseases. So these children were falling sick very frequently due to the diseases that is arising in their village, and they wanted to put an end to it. So as a first measure, they tried to find out what is the root cause of this. Is when they learned that water storage in their school was the root cause of the problem. And why did they have to store water? It was because they did not have any pipeline water in their village, because of which they had to fetch water. So as a ritual on an everyday basis, even before their school assembly starts, they used to trek for about 1.5-2 kilometers, fetch the water and store them in containers inside their school. So that water has to be used for the entire day activities for both the children as well as for the staff members. So they then figured that because they were not closing the storage containers properly, because they didn't have a stringent guidelines about washing those containers and so on, children were falling ill because it became breeding ground for mosquitoes naturally and they were getting infected. So they said that we are going to take this as a mission and we are going to eradicate these waterborne diseases from our village. So how are you going to do about it? So then they learned that if they were to do this, they need to bring a pipe water facility to their village, which did not have a pipe water facility until then. So with the help of the mentor, they were routed to the UNICEF office in Ranchi. Remember, they are in a village in one of the remotest places in Ranchi. They have to travel a distance to this particular UNICEF office, where the UNICEF office provided them some guidance on how to go about this. So as a first step, if they want to first have a pipe water facility, what was required is they needed to have a facility or some feasibility for them to have an underground water. So they explored if there was an underground water available in their school premises. They did that and they found that yes, underwater facility resource is available, because of which they can build a borewell or a tube well. Now, their next step was, what do we do with a borewell? Is when again they approached the UNICEF office and they told them, look, Government of India, Ministry of Jal Shakti has a scheme which is called as the Swajal scheme. So according to the Swajal scheme, all aspirational villages in India, this was initiated in 2018 by the government, and all the aspirational villages of India need to have access to pipeline supply of water. So they knew this through the UNICEF people, and of course were doing some more research from their end, and then they brought back this idea to the village. Not only did they do that, they went to the borewell companies to find out quotations. They seek their help to find out if there was a feasibility to construct a borewell or a tube well. They got the quotations, plus they made a petition. And this petition was signed by everybody in the school, from all the students, the headmistress, along with the entire set of villagers, because they wanted this desperately in their village to be done. After signing this, they handed over this petition along with the quotation to the Mukhia of that village. Mukhia is the president of the village. They handed it over to the Mukhia, and the Mukhia in turn handed this over to the BDO. BDO is the Block Development Officer, who has this liaising between the government and the functioning of the village. So these two are the most important people who need to take care of this particular situation. So what did they do? They said, we will move it to the local authorities as and when the time comes. But no, SDG has taught us, the children say that the SDG has taught us that it is faster, closer, and better communication and better, fast track process and everything. And that's how we have been taught about SDG, fight the problems in that aspect. So they said, no, we need a weekly report on what progress have you been making about this. And believe me, in just about less than 2 weeks' time, they had a proper feasibility study done in their school premises to check if at all there is a borewell that could be constructed. In the meanwhile, our NSIC competition was going on and it almost attained its final grand finale moment. And these children, not to mention, they did get their award, they did win. But what happened after a week from then is what is the most interesting thing. Now, because of all the hue and cry these children had done or created in their village, this went to the ears of the MLA. MLA is the representative of the constituency. So that MLA lands up into their school premises on one fine morning and says that we are going to be laying a foundation stone to drill the borewell inside your school campus. And that was the dream come true moment for these children. And as we speak today, the entire village is enjoying the pipe water supply facility just because these children took this as a mission. They accomplished it with their unwavering determination. At any point of time, they said, we are not going to be giving this up. And in the pursuit of solving this particular problem and finding a solution for this, they went about having a complete upliftment of their entire village. The dynamics of the village changed entirely. So this, Kumar, is what I think from a very ordinary student to a transformation of a change maker is what we are creating as impact. And this is only due to the quality education that we are able to provide to the children of that village. So they are now the advocates of SDG.
Swapna, thank you. You gave us one story. I'm eager to listen to 399 stories more, but I know we have time permitting. I'll come back to you for just one more story at the end. Please give us that. So we talk about a decade of action from a UN's perspective until 2030 to achieve the SDGs. So I'm sure with initiatives like this touching the grassroots level, spreading the awareness on the goals and converting the younger generation to change agents. Wow, and 800 plus students every year. Swapna, you and your team would have contributed significantly to the decade of action. Continue the good work. My next panelist, Amit, me and Amit both are cut from the same cloth, so to speak. He works for a large multinational bank. He loves to be a volunteer teacher like me and has been consistently volunteer champion in the last few years in eVidyaloka. So we are now moving our focus slightly to tech for social good. So Amit, how technology is empowering volunteer teachers, especially the virtual volunteer teachers in the education sector?
Thanks, Kumar, for giving me this opportunity. And good morning and good afternoon to all the panelists and the participants of this meeting. So I would first like to start with her analogy, and I have taken inspiration from the work done by Ma'am Padma. I have gone through her profile and got really impressed with her achievements and her background. So I would like to say that if we talk education as a rocket, which can take the human beings to a greater heights where we can touch Moon and Mars, then technology is actually the engine behind it, which helps in the propulsion of that engine. So it is actually the soul. The technology is like the soul behind the success of education. We always say that education is the fundamental right of each and every child, every kid. But how would they realize this particular, how would they enjoy this benefit if the education is not inclusive? Technology comes here. Technology is the enabler, is the agent which makes the education inclusive. It not only empowers teachers, but it also empowers volunteers and teachers like me. Let's take the example of eVidyaloka itself. eVidyaloka has propounded this excellent and unique proposition of the virtual learning. This particular proposition resides on two main pillars. One, the volunteers. Second, the technology. Role of volunteers is as important as the role of role of technology is as important as the role of volunteers in making this proposition successful. Let me quote some of my personal experiences, how technology has helped me in discharging my duties as a volunteer very efficiently and effectively. It is a technology which helps me to enter into the classroom of the kids when I use Zoom or Google Meet. It is a technology which helps me in interacting and engaging with my students when I use a virtual dashboard which is open in my laptop and students are able to write along with me on my laptop. It is a technology which helps me in preparing my assessment sheets in the regional languages. As it was told by the other panelists that we need to talk and interact with the kids in their regional colloquial language. I do not have any regional keyboard on my laptop, but I make use of Google Docs, voice typing and the translator to prepare my assessment sheet in the regional language which has been given to the students and they take the assessment. Now, why technology is so important and so effective? Why it becomes a very vital cog in the education landscape or the educational ecosystem? Because of various benefits which it offers. First, it has completely eliminated the geographical distance between the teacher and volunteer. Second, as I mentioned, it is helping us in fulfilling the objective of making the education inclusive. Now, quality education is not just limited to big metros or the big cities. We with eVidyaloka were able to take the quality education to the doorstep of the government schools which are possibly situated in the remotest of our country. Last but not the least, it also helps the school in optimization of their day-to-day operations or in their or optimizing their cost. Plus, it also helps in enhancing the learning experience of the kids. we can make use of various advanced features like gamification, personalized curriculum, etc. to make our content more engaging and more interesting and interactive with the kids. So finally, I would like to conclude by summarizing that now technology has become an integral part of the education system, and it is the need of the hour that we should realize that it is the time to harness the power of technology. Thank you. Thanks, Kumar.
Thank you, Amit. So you summarized it beautifully, that how inexpensive but simple technology you can make use of to take it to the rural parts of India and elsewhere in the world as well. Thank you. My next speaker, Meenal Buch. She is a teacher by profession, having worked in many countries. Currently, she teaches science for secondary students in the UK. She worked as a master trainer for trainers to train 1,000-odd teachers in the state of Gujarat. Her students love her science teaching. Meenal, there is a concern that teaching science remotely to the middle school students may not be effective. Firstly, do you agree? What methods you employ to make the science teaching effective online?
Thank you very much, Kumar, and good morning, good evening to everyone, whoever is watching, and to my co-panelists. This is an excellent question because, science is my thing, and when I think science, it's a subject which has so many abstract concepts which may be difficult to comprehend by the traditional chalk and talk method. This further can become more challenging in a remote teaching and learning scenario, like you mentioned. And because, like myself, I'm based in the UK, so geographically, even culturally, socially, I'm kind of in a different setup, so it can pose an additional challenge. So the first step at this point is to bridge this gap and talk in the context of the student's environment. So to give you an example, a lot of villages in India today even use the coal-fired stoves, sigri as we call. And so in order to explain the concept of complete and incomplete combustion, for example, it could be introduced by just discussing these stoves, how do they work, because it's something which the students can relate to straight away because they've been observing it on a day-to-day basis. Likewise, when I was teaching in the Middle East a few years ago, there had to be a conscious shift into using examples of sandboarding rather than snowboarding, as we use in the UK, to explain the concept of pressure, surface area, and so on. So the point is, conceptual understanding can be leveraged upon their existing knowledge and their environment by talking their language, because it just makes it much more easier for them to comprehend. Moreover, in order to make learning more accessible to students with different learning abilities, it's quite essential to offer a multisensory platform which has audio, video, animations, integrated images, and so forth. So I feel using an online platform to even do a demo of experiments. So I do these home experiments, simple, basic experiments, which the students can replicate at home using simple tools, nothing fancy, to understand all sorts of science concepts, will further help them reinforce their understanding of the concept. And this is of more importance because in schools, there might be, a limitation of resources. Even the safety gears may not be up to the mark. So using a virtual lab simulation, like Amit ji said, leveraging technology to help them understand these concepts would be the way to go. And I personally feel in order to raise scientists, we need to help students become keen observers of everyday, day-to-day life around them. It could be just observing their mom cooking or farming or, diet, exercise, all sorts of things. It's just keen observation. And if they bring these observations into the classroom scenario, and then the teacher could help facilitate their learning and then, link them to the concepts, and then they can straight away apply their observations to the concept and just complete the whole picture. I personally have tried to reinforce this conceptual understanding by a couple of things. One was creating a classroom website. Because it was remote learning, this helped quite a lot, because I uploaded all the student work, their projects, their all the recorded home experiments. I had a few guest lectures come in, so their podcasts, everything was uploaded, their online textbooks, etc. And so children could take ownership of their learning and share good practices. They could revisit or recap a concept again and again, and more than anything, they could take pride in their own work. So that was one thing. And secondly, the power of podcasts, we can't underestimate it, because encouraging children to submit their work as an audio file, it doesn't have to be a worksheet. This can be then resourced, or kind of a resource could be created online, and children could access it as and when. So having said all of this, I can't stress enough the importance of kinesthetic, tactile, and hands-on learning. And for this, I must thank our wonderful classroom assistants, because they make bridging this gap possible by providing the right resources, or even bridging the language barrier gap that sometimes a volunteer teacher might have. And because the classroom assistants speak the local dialect as well, so that helps. And also just managing the class generally, tech issues, troubleshooting, those kind of things. So having their presence and the overall learning experience makes just becomes more smoother, and just becomes smoother and more enjoyable. And finally, I would just like to say that I'm extremely glad and privileged to be a part of eVidyaloka, because it has provided a dynamic platform to create this one big community of change makers in today's, we can say, vibrant India. And long may this continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Two key takeaways for me, Meenal, is using podcast as one of the innovative way of teaching, and the hands-on methodology to teach science. Meenal, I wish I have had a science teacher like you in my school days. I'm sure I would not have become a banker. I'm sure Amit shares the same view. If the audience have difficulty in identifying the bankers on the panel, the one with the ties, the one who sports a tie are the bankers. Okay, let's move on to the second round. Going to Subha. Subha, going forward, say in the next 3 years, how do you see volunteering shaping up in India? Are there any learnings for the rest of the world from the scalability of the current volunteering model which eVidyaloka employs?
Sure. The comfort that the volunteering brings in, I think that's the first element that we are all looking out for, what is in it for today and the future. Most of us, when we go out for searching any volunteering opportunities, we just sit and type in Google virtual volunteering, right? So digital focus with volunteering and the efficiency that programs like eVidyaloka, can give for volunteers, be it mentorship, be it short term, be it long term. I think that is something the people, the passionate individuals, are waiting to grab such an opportunity. And secondly, scholastics is one thing, but nowadays people are going towards skill based, right? So scholastics with skills will bring you to the next level. So we all have been in the school teaching you English, maths, science, social science, everything. But suddenly when you're put into college, you're completely in a new environment, studying and doing multiple, activities based. And if you are especially taking engineering, you will have to have all the courses in your first semester, be it mechanical, be it chemical. Even though if you are enrolled for computer science and engineering, you are given the training of all across, right? So what are the opportunities that are available for them to pick up? So that kind of environment will be provided to the students at the schooling level when they are a little mature to think about their future. I think the skill-based volunteering will help, be it any program level or technology level. What is the latest one? The awareness is really important. Whether it is good or bad, the students should be able to disseminate that. For example, in eVidyaloka, we have a program called BRAIN, Build Rural Artificial Intelligence Network, wherein we are providing basic courses of artificial intelligence to grade 7 and above across 300 schools in eVidyaloka, which has been supported by Microsoft for the pilot. So I think this kind of opportunities are attracting the volunteers more, because we are all seeing corporate volunteers. Many corporate employees are into what is artificial intelligence and all that. So when we say we are having such a course, they are all very eager to get enrolled. One is to learn for themselves, because all these courses are delivered in regional languages. Think how you will spell artificial intelligence itself in a regional language, in different multilingual regional language forum. So that brings a lot of difference, and they're all eagerly getting into the process of it. So as we speak, the program is live. And the second is campus ambassador program. So right from the college, universities, and even the corporates, we have ambassadors who are with us for a long time, who could go and talk about all these programs and familiarize all of this to similar like-minded individuals in their organization, in the universities, which will bring a lot of focus from a volunteering perspective, because many of us want to volunteer but do not know what opportunity can I take, what is there and how will it be. A lot of questions comes in when we say the word volunteering, right? So is it short term, long term? Do I have to spend every day? Do I have to spend only weekend? So all these kind of questions will become easier when an experienced personnel comes and talks to you. So that's wherein the campus ambassador program that we are going to launch in September is really the future that we are envisioning from a volunteering perspective. And now with the new CSR laws and in place, all the corporates are mandating volunteering as a part of their KPI for their employees. The key performance indicators include how many hours did you volunteer, what kind of program did you volunteer, all this. So this kind of gives an awareness to the employees on, many of the employees come and talk to us. They say, we understood what is SDG through the NSIC program because we are volunteering to mentor that. So there is a lot of social awareness that gets created, learnings and involvement that comes in when they see such programs which are touching really. When Swapna was talking about all that, it's the effort that the students can take. So how can I support them in my capacity? So that comes in eventually through this kind of strong partnerships. And sometimes we will have to make some things compulsory, right? So for us to even give it a try, we will have to do that stint. And leveraging partnerships. I think a lot of like-minded organizations nowadays are, bringing in passionate individuals to getting this awareness itself is the biggest challenge that we see right now. And this event, Changemaker event, which is happening right now, localization or be it international audience, so you bring in that connect, you bring in that visibility for all such programs and opportunities that lie ahead for the future. I think this event itself is a great example to answer your question in terms of future partnerships.
Thank you, Subha. One point I would just take from your piece, the brain part, the artificial intelligence part. So what you're saying is that eVidyaloka is currently not using AI for teaching, but we are taking the basic concepts of AI to the rural parts of India with the help of, in collaboration with Microsoft. That's a great initiative. I can tell you that there is in our roadmap to use AI for our own business model. For example, to use it for testing the levels of knowledge before and after, those kind of things we will be using going forward the AI to kind of scale up our activities. So at this point in time, it is only taking to the rural parts, the basic fundamental AI. So moving on to Meenal, how do you see the future of online learning? Maybe in 2 or 3 points, if you can make that how do you see the future?
Thank you. I feel, it's because of online learning that volunteers like me who are sitting away from India are able to reach out to students in India, in rural India. So, and also, from what used to be a chalk and talk method, very passive mode of learning, we're now moving on to more reflective and more interactive sort of learning, where students are free to ask questions. So there are all sorts of resources available online which you can dip into, but apart from just using a website or an app and so on, it's also about giving them a real-time experience. For example, I have sometimes, I take the laptop outside in the back garden and just show them, we compared, let's say, vegetation, leaves which grow here in this climate compared to what sort of vegetation do they found in southern India near the equator and so on. So just leveraging upon the real-time feature of it as well. We've been talking about space missions, and students have actually captured the night sky, International Space Station passing over their homes, and shared those images and videos with me as well, which I think would be, it's possible largely because of the online interactivity. We've had speakers from different places come and share their expertise, and students have picked up so much from, we have had speakers from locally in India as well during COVID times as well, talking about corona hygiene and also other topics as well. I feel personally, students, online learning allows them to learn in their own pace, revisit or recap a concept. They may be learning different things at the same time at their own pace. So different chunks of micro learning, as we call, and that is a huge thing rather than a one size fits all. So online learning makes that possible. And I think at eVidyaloka, we're quite fortunate to be able to offer an offline support from the classroom assistants as well as the online platform to bring in the best from all, walks. And so, I see a very bright future, and which will only keep getting better with, again, Amit mentioned AR, and once that starts coming in, I think we've got a really bright future ahead.
Yeah, indeed. The augmented technology would really be fascinating for all of us to be part of that online learning journey. Thank you, Meenal. Swapna, coming back to you, could you elaborate on how NSIC project work on various SDGs dovetail into quality education and skill development, the topic for the day?
Sure. Quality education, SDG4, Kumar, to me, I would think is the fulcrum of all the other SDGs, or rather should I say the nucleus of the other SDGs that revolve around it. Because if not for quality education, how do you think will the children be aware that SDGs exist? Like what Subha was mentioning earlier, most of our volunteers who come into NSIC as a program is when they realize what SDGs are, even though they would have heard about it broadly, but what are SDGs for and how at a global level we are trying to address so many challenges. All this is known only through quality education when that is provided for the children. So that's the crux mainly. And imagine when children are trying to make a difference, there is on one way to do it on an independent basis. Vis-a-vis, on the other side, when they are doing it with a banner of a UN SDG behind them, or under eVidyaloka as a banner around them. So it makes a lot of difference. I would just take a very small example here, a real-time example again. A few years ago, there were two boys from a remotest of one of the villages in North India. And they had applied for an NSIC program, and the topic that they were working on was gender equality. And why did they choose this topic is, on one of the casual days, they went along the registry of their school, and they saw a lot of enrollments from the girls also. But they didn't have any girls in the school. They hardly had in the entire school, they may had about maybe 4 or 5 or 6 girls. And they wanted to find out why haven't the other girls who have registered not shown up to the school. And they wanted to do something about it. Of course, the reasons were many. I'll not go there. But what did they do about this is what is the center of your question here. So along with the mentor, taking some guidance from the mentor, they created some handouts, charts, banners, and they led a drive, a door-to-door campaigning which they did around that village and the adjacent village, giving them the merits of the program which eVidyaloka does, and how teachers are appearing on the TV, how important, of course, education is for their future, how important it is to study, and all that on one side. And on the other side, the kind of incentivities this program is providing them by taking part in the competitions, which give them awards and prize money and so on. And how do you think all this would have happened unless they had a prior knowledge about this? Of course, what happened thereafter was amazing, because 2 months or 3 months after that, we did have the same school. At least about 30 to 35% increase in the girl students happened gradually and steadily. Not, on overnight, but it did happen. And what did the girls do? Not only did they get the education, but they promoted women hygiene across the entire village, especially to the adults and to the pregnant mothers. So that was the role that these girls played after having coming to the school. So I totally believe that whatever the goal may be, SDG goal may be, like I spoke about clean water and sanitation earlier. So this is about gender equality. If there is time, like what you requested, I might want to throw light on a few more SDGs. But end of the day, I believe that the crux has to be education and quality education. Only then the other SDGs would be taking center stage at a later time. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Swapna. Yeah, it just builds the confidence and the other skills, the leadership skills and communication skills as well, working on projects like that.
Yeah,
Clearly,
sorry to interrupt. See, when you're talking about communication skills, right? So initially we had a long list of activities and objectives that we had created when we started MSIC. Like, this is more of a collaborative activity with the rural and the urban. So we said fostering and strengthening collaboration, clearing out the disparities, demographic disparities, building in the interpersonal communication, making sure that we are inculcating leadership skills in the children, so on and so forth, the typical set of agenda that you have when you are coming up with any kind of a competition. But over the years, we have seen that in the pursuit of addressing a large item, the elephant in the room kind of a situation in every village, all these objectives have become incidental benefits to the children. So they are just byproduct of a larger scheme of things when it is being explored on. So these do come as part and parcel of the entire thing. So not to miss out on them. But the center stage again takes in the bigger problem that the children have to be facing. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you. Thank you. I will come back to you, time permitting, for another inspiring story like this, Swapna. Moving to Amit, how technology is going to contribute in the education landscape, say in the next 2 to 3 years?
Okay, sure. So, Kumar, I would like to say or quote an example of Moore's law, which says that number of components which are being built on a IC integrated circuit are going to double in every 2 to 3 years. Similarly, the face of technology is going to change immensely and drastically in the next couple of 2 or 3 years, even in the education ecosystem. Two of the technology which comes onto the top of my mind is first, which Meenal ma'am has also highlighted, is of metaverse, which is actually a blend of AR and VR, augmented reality and the virtual reality, which is going to give a immersive learning experience to the students. It's possible that the volunteer or the teacher is sitting millions of kilometers away from the classroom, from the student, but this particular technology will give an impression as if the teacher is sitting next to your bench, next to your chair. The second important technology which comes to my mind is going to be the automated assessment, where we are going to introduce or we are going to leverage the technology for a scientific way of assessment. What it will mean, it will do a baseline assessment of the student, and for every subsequent assessment it is going to do the relative analysis. This particular method is going to provide a detailed SWOT analysis for the student, where the teacher will be able to know what are the strengths, weaknesses and the area of improvement for each and every student, and I can curate and can personalize my concept, my learning, my way of learning, my learning path as per the needs and the requirements of the student. So these are the two important technology which comes to my mind. There could be various other technologies, other applications which will come definitely, but overall, in summary, I can say that overall the face of the technology and its use and its application is going to change drastically in the coming next couple of years in education system.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you. Moving on to Padma, last but not the least. What challenges you faced as a volunteer, and what did you do not to be discouraged by those challenges?
Wow, there are a lot of challenges. I mean, but it's all worth it. Like somebody, I forget who mentioned about the power cut, the infrastructure. It's easy to be discouraged, right? But then, it's a way of life. So it kind of brings them back to reality. Yes, it happens, right? So you just hang in there. And the classroom size is a little challenging sometimes. I've had like 39 kids. And so when you have 39 kids, it's divide and conquer, right? So you form groups and make one lead. I'd have to find, it helps me I have to be creative. So move the last row to the front so nobody hides. Everybody has to have a little bit of confidence to be able to raise their hand and, because it's easy to feel shy and all. And NSIC has also been a bit of a challenge, and Swapna knows, but the point there was for me is to teach the kids. It's not about winning, it really isn't. I know we all like to get a prize. Everybody wants to win. I do too. I like to get a prize, but it's about the process and the creativity. And you'll be surprised how I think they're surprised how creative they are. How they would go to their grandfather who's the farmer and get the data. This is real data, hands-on. So there have been, a lot of challenges like that, but you just have to be creative. Every situation is different. I can't say like classroom size is one thing and power cut that's inevitable. So you have to realize, yes, it's inevitable. It's easy because I see volunteers, it's easy to get discouraged. And confidence, that's the thing for me. It's all about building confidence in these little girls. One place I taught, it was co-ed, and there were only 3 girls, and they were all in the back row. And I said, the first class, I said, no, all the girls are coming to the front. Let the boys be in the back. There are tons of boys. So every one of them, like I said, is I have to be creative how to overcome that particular challenge. So, but it's worth it because it's making me grow, right? I'm learning how to be creative. I'm learning how to think out of the box, and grounding me. It's like, the real world. It's just not, it's an imperfect world. So that's all I have.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. So we have about 10 more minutes to go. So before I summarize, I would quickly go in for the 3 volunteer teachers, which is Swapna, which is Padma, Amit, and Meenal. 3 questions, rapid fire, 1-word answers or 1-sentence answers. First question, let's go in the same order. Meenal, Amit, and Padma. 1 word that comes to your mind on the entire volunteering experience.
I would say if I had to capture it all in 1 word, I would say humbling. Because there's a lot I can say, but humbling, I think, probably just does justice.
Amit?
Yep.
1 word, what comes to your mind on the entire volunteering experience?
It's a satisfaction, I would say. It's really very, very satisfying experience.
Padma?
Yeah, I have both of them. Humbling, very humbling, and very satisfying. And believe in yourself, girls. We're going to get to Mars. We will.
So, keeping you on the mic, 1 innovation you would like to bring to online teaching.
Was that for me?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear. I didn't catch that. Sorry.
1 innovation you would like to bring to online teaching.
What innovation? Wow, I mean, I don't have one word, or I need a paragraph, I think.
Okay, just indicate a subject or a topic or something, one particular thing, or we move on to Amit.
I mean, so far it's been great, but I mean, I don't know how you can do with this stability of internet. I don't know if Amit has it's in his hands or what he can do about it. I've missed a lot of classes due to that. Nothing profound comes to my head. Sorry.
Okay, fair enough. So, Meenal, would you like to take that?
I think, I mean, I've seen this especially in case of science. If we could have students in some form do the experiments and, tap upon more aspects than just visually seeing me do a demo. If they could, I don't know how can technology make that work, but surely with AR, metaverse, or it's not really my thing, but if we could have them do the experiment like dissection online and still get the feel of it, something more advanced than what we're currently doing, I think that would be great.
Okay, thank you. So, Amit, I'll ask you a different question. A philosophical question, why does one need to volunteer?
To give back to the society. We take right from our childhood, we take a lot from the society, from the nature. We should volunteer to give. It is our payback time to give. That's why we.
Good.
Thank you. So before I kind of summarize, I just have one question for Swapna and Subha as well. Subha, I see most of your volunteers join eVidyaloka without any huge teaching experience. So is that a challenge in itself? How do they cope up? How do you make sure this model works with volunteers having less pedagogical experience? I mean, you don't have Meenals all through in the panel, right? So how do you manage that?
Yeah, maybe our volunteers do not have teaching experience, but they very well have learning experience, right? So we all have sat down in the same bench and then we have come. Won't we do the same for our little sisters and little brothers when they are in the school? So I think one is what we are taking out from the volunteers is the experience that they bring in. Like you also was mentioning that you could have had such a science teacher like Meenal ma'am, right? So what it would have been if I got this opportunity, but I did not, or I may have, so I want to give it back to my students, right? So that's the attitude. First is the passion attitude that the volunteers bring in, because they are very well open to learn something new to teach the students back, and again, obviously for getting back from them. So I think one is that the moment you know that they have passion, when they get into knowing that it may have its ups and downs, we have a very robust content management and volunteer management, as well as the operations team, who would handhold the volunteers right through the journey, starting with using our platform. Where can they find the relevant content resources, because many of us might have gone through English medium schools, even though we may know to read, write and speak in our own mother tongue. It would be difficult when it comes to actual scholastic teaching. It's like what is carved in the scripts 1,000 years ago. Some words are very new to us. We won't use it in our daily life. So for that, we have glossaries, we have lesson plans, we have a lot of videos which will help them to understand what can be given back to the students. When you all just have to do is to give them that start kick. And further, we have a lot of volunteers who have made their own videos, who have made their own PPTs, very new way of teaching, fractions with what you call roti. That's how they teach, so they bring in a lot of examples that the students can relate to. So that itself is something what we are looking out from the volunteers, the creativity. Like Meenal ma'am was talking about podcasts. Would you have thought about submitting your assignment through podcast? What kind of technology innovation that we are giving right in the grade 6 to 8 for the students. So that is what is the big help. And eVidyaloka follows most of it NCERT syllabus, the national syllabus that was recommended by the government, which is common across the state boards. So it becomes easier for them to access the resources, map it with the lesson plans that we give. And there happens a lot of discussions with the school teachers also. So that gives the volunteer teachers a base to start with. Also, we have baseline assessments. So the students to understand, for the volunteers to understand what is the grade appropriateness of my child, right? So that gives them the starting point on where can they start. So I think these are some of the things that we all are exploring through the journey, and each and every volunteer have their own way of managing their kids, and that is the speciality of eVidyaloka's volunteering model. That's my submission.
Thank you. Swapna, if you could just give us one more inspirational story from the NSIC project experience, with that I can kind of take it to the closure.
There are many, Kumar. The moment you asked me, they've been just flooding. So I'll have to just pick one. And I mean, not making any injustice here, making every project that has come to us is special in its own way. Like how Padma mentioned earlier, it is not about winning. Many of the project examples that I give here don't necessarily make it to the winning, but it is the experience and the exposure that the children get in this entire context. So a few years ago, around the same time, during Independence Day, in one of these villages in Nilogal of Dharwad district in Karnataka, there happened one kind of a revolution, I must say. So these children, they enrolled for NSIC, and they picked up the topic as good health and well-being. And as part of their NSIC program, they also wanted to bring in some kind of a reformation, or they wanted to renovate the one existing toilet that was there in their neighborhood of the school, which was non-functional for over many years. I mean, there used to be some proposal, it used to get procrastinated and so on and so forth. For almost more than 15 years, it was used as a junkyard. And the children had to go kilometers before which they could use the washrooms. It was hardly just one or two for the entire village. And due to the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and everything, so they got very motivated by the entire idea. They wanted to do something about it, but they didn't know how to go about it. Is when their mentor gave the children a very fascinating idea of, during the Independence Day, we know these villages, they have a very huge cultural program that they have in their school. So as part of the cultural program, they invited the entire set of village people, not only that village, another one adjacent village also. And they invited the, Gram Panchayat, the BDO, and who's who of that village, right? Of both the villages, in fact. And then they performed a skit in front of them, because they did not want to just hold the mic and tell them, listen, we want this to be done, because that was a straightforward way, but things weren't moving that way. So they performed a skit, and the skit elaborated in Kannada. It was purely in Kannada, and the skit elaborated stepwise manner on what are the different problems that they were facing because of non-functional toilets, and how the safety of girls and the women were becoming questionable because they had to walk furlongs in the early morning time, and it was very dark and it was getting very weird for them. And through the skit, as in the skit was progressing during the course of this Independence Day activity, they had more and more footfall just to visualize what was happening. And the news just went up, and they were on the newspapers just a week after that. And once they are in the newspapers, you know what happens. Then there was extremely fast-track process. It was cleared. Brand new fittings were deployed in that particular washroom inside the school campus, including a WC, which was never even in the thought process of the children. Plus the other functional, there were new functional toilets that were created in the neighborhood also, to make sure that the entire set of villagers are also benefited by this. Plus, what happened in the same program was, they also did a dance by a few girls, which demonstrated the hand washing principle or the various steps involved in the hand washing, which was a eye-opener for the entire village, because until then they never knew that there were so many steps to even hand washing exercise, and how important it was proving was because of which they were having a lot of other health hazards which they put to curtail. They could curtail because they could understand what hand washing meant and how many times in a day you should be washing. And believe me, this actually became a guideline principle during COVID. They had posters all over the village with whatever these steps and guidelines method the children had given through their dance and biscuit, put around the entire village. And during COVID, they were able to abet a lot of cases inside their village. So this was another very inspirational story which I thought I'll bring to the table.
Thank you. I want to sign up again for NSIC.
You are welcome. Everybody is welcome to do that.
Okay, so in summary, the volunteering model is working well. Scalability and robustness has been established now over a decade. We will also be launching new modules to keep the young minds engaged and challenged. One such example is the BRAIN project we have launched this year, which Subha was alluding to. We will also be launching the Campus Ambassador program in universities this year with the view to kindle the spirit of volunteerism in the young minds. So this, along with the alumni beneficiaries emerging out of the rural schools, because we have been in operation for the last 10 years, and then the pipeline of volunteers we have, we expect the pipeline to be very strong in the coming years, so that it enables us to reach out to untouched areas of India.